starting off, welcome to Chapel Hill.
Thank you.
I know you've been to the U.S. before. Have you been down to North Carolina in the past?
No, my first time here actually. Done about 16 states. This is my 17th state in the US. Yeah.
What else do you have left, and where are you looking forward to traveling to in the U.S.?
I think we're going to Purdue next, which is in
Purdue.
Indiana. I think. Very English. Sorry. How do you say it?
Purdue.
Purdue. There you go. And then I think we've got a show in Queens, Queens College. I think one in Jersey.
Okay.
So that's all this month. Yeah. Quite a few shows, and I mean I'm here all the time. So yeah.
And how different is it in the United States from where you are in Britain?
Britain, yeah, it's good. It's very similar in terms of the kind of the Desi scene is growing fast here now. It's been around for longer in the UK. Obviously, there's a lot more kind of Indian artists there and more media and stuff like that. But I think the Desi scene here is really growing very fast. I think in the college scene, it's really it's massive. Like all these dance shows and all these kind of college shows are huge over here. So I think culturally it's very similar. Obviously, America is a lot bigger and there's a lot more. I think it's more for me. It's more kind of I guess it's more relevant to be here because I sing R&B. I think being here is it's like the home of hip hop and R&B music. So it's good to be in America compared to the UK. But for me, I think India is the main focus right now. So I'm signed to a label in India called T-Series. So I'm spending more time in like Mumbai, Delhi than here.
And so how's your music looking to evolve as you adapt to T-Series?
So kind of I'm focusing on this fusion style. Basically, it's kind of R&B pop meets Hindi. But also I'm half Tamil, so I do kind of a bunch of South stuff as well. So I've done about 3 or 4 songs for Tamil movies. Done 1 song for a Bollywood film as well. So working a lot more projects with film directors. So the aim is to kind of try and crack Bollywood, not as an actor, but more as a singer and a producer. So that is one route. The other thing for me is my passion project is my R&B album, my pure English R&B album. So I've been doing a lot of kind of covers and remixes of Indian songs fused with English, but my main passion is R&B music, so the aim is to release my original R&B pop album this year, which is my main project. So
I want to take the conversation back a little bit. You said you're Tamil, and I know that you were born in Colombo. When did you immigrate?
When I was about 3, I moved to London. So I'm pretty British. Like, I mean, my parents are very Western. So, but I'm back in Sri Lanka once a year at least, because my whole family is in Sri Lanka, so I go back a lot. Yeah.
And what's it like going back? Do you look forward to that every year?
I do. I love Sri Lanka. I mean, everyone thinks I'm Indian because my name's Arjun and I sing Hindi fusion stuff. But Sri Lanka for me is like it's like a second home, and it's a very chilled out lifestyle. It's like I guess it's a bit like being here. It's kind of like everyone's very friendly, very super chill. London's very hectic and fast paced, a bit like New York. Whereas Colombo is a lot more just like everyone's on the beach, just like sipping drinks and just chilling out. So it's a nice break for me to be there for sure.
So tell me about growing up in Britain. I know that you said your parents are very westernized, and I'm curious to what your ambitions were as a kid and what role music played in your upbringing.
So my mom was very into music. She herself plays the piano. She's very into jazz music and soul, that kind of stuff. So I grew up with a lot of Western music rather than Bollywood. Bollywood came much later for me actually. So I was always in bands. I was in a metal band, like a proper rock metal band, playing the drums and the guitar. So I dyed my hair like white, like sprayed my hair white. It's a bit of a goth, and then I went into a kind of a house EDM phase where I was doing more DJing and producing stuff. And I was in a jazz band. I've been in a bunch of different kinds of groups, and I was always very shy. So I never used to want to sing. I used to always play the guitar or the drums or the keyboard. And I'd write songs for other artists. I'd produce beats for other artists, but I would never be the guy on the stage singing. So I think the big change for me was my friends. My friends kind of pushed me to enter a talent show when I was about 17. They're like, you should just get over it, just be on stage, and sing. So I entered the show. I won the show. On the back of that, I got a bit of radio exposure and TV exposure. Quite a big DJ was hosting the show, so he kind of championed me in the UK. And then I think the big thing for me was YouTube. Honestly speaking, like YouTube changed my whole direction. So I was just doing kind of R&B stuff in the UK and releasing, self-releasing kind of R&B pop stuff. And I guess I just managed to grow a pretty decent following in the UK Indian scene. Asian for us is Indian, sorry. You guys say Chinese for Asian, right? But so I built a pretty strong following in the UK, but it wasn't international. I think when I embraced YouTube and social media, that's when everything changed. So they did a remix of the song Why This Color Ready, which is a Tamil song, and that went really viral, and then that kind of changed my whole direction. Since then I've been doing this whole kind of fusion, taking an Indian song or like a South Indian song and fusing it with R&B. And that's basically been my signature sound.
Yeah, and it's definitely very recognizable to you. When did you get that idea that this should be something that you follow and kind of make your own thing?
I think in the UK there's a lot of Bhangra, a lot of Punjabi music, there's a lot of Bollywood, but there's not as much fusion. There is obviously stuff happening. There's people like Jay Sean have done it before, but not the way that, I guess, taking Bollywood and fusing that with R&B. I've heard like Punjabi with R&B, and I've heard like kind of North Indian stuff, but I've never heard Bollywood mixed with a really soulful R&B sound. So that was I just kind of just tried it out as an experiment, and it really worked. I think it kind of resonates with people who are, I guess, young, either in high school or college, and they love R&B and hip-hop, but they also love their parents are listening to Bollywood at home, and they love that culture too. So it's kind of like the fusion of East and West. And I think that is a unique sound for them, because they're very Western, but they also have these Eastern roots. So I think that has really been the key for me, and I mean, because of that, it's been kind of more like a global sound, whereas I guess before the R&B I was making was just very much UK-based. Now it's much more like, we tour the world, so we do shows in Malaysia, Singapore, Dubai, Australasia, all over Europe, all over North America, Canada, going to Africa soon. So I think, this sound is a global sound, whereas the R&B thing for me was just a local sound.
And talk about being a global sound, I think that YouTube and social media play a big part in reaching that global audience. Do you see social media and websites like YouTube being a force to be reckoned with in the entertainment industry as years progress?
I think everyone's seeing it. I think, honestly speaking, like the way that media is changing now, YouTubers are actually as important advocates as as a TV like an RJ or a DJ or whatever. I think people have seen the power of people like Superwoman, for example. She's a good friend of mine. I mean, her online power is more powerful to me than a TV channel. Like, it's honestly, that is the power that they have. So I think, and also because YouTube is it's not localized. So YouTube is, you could be in any country and you can watch YouTube. But the media, like a radio station, is only for that city. There'll be like a North Carolina station, but there won't be like a YouTube for this region. So that is why it's so much easier to embrace online media and use that to your advantage, rather than trying to do a campaign for every city in the world. Try and get on TV in every country. It's not going to happen. So YouTube is a lot more powerful for sure.
And you spoke about R&B being one of your big focuses, is that you were doing the fusion stuff in Bollywood, and you're also interested in pursuing your R&B album. I just listened to Vampire recently. I like how you have such an eclectic mix of music and different sounds. But tell me, R&B specifically, what's it like being a Desi R&B artist? Is there like any sort of stigma you have to face or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've just been, have had this chat with UK labels in the UK. So it's hard enough to do to be brown and do pop music in the UK, but to do R&B in the UK is even harder, because there's not much of an R&B scene in the UK. Like, can you name me an R&B singer from the UK?
No.
Craig David. Have you heard of him? Craig David?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He's the only guy. There's no one else. I mean, you guys have got like Trey Songz and Neo and Chris Brown, millions, but the UK has no scene. So it's very hard, let alone being a white or black R&B artist. Being a brown R&B artist is very difficult. So I think I've kind of tried to find a sound that is a bit more, I guess, UK kind of pop. I guess it's pop R&B, but it's more pop for the UK. But I think I'm going to have to move to the US and try and crack that market here, because I think that is the key. New York and LA is where the home of R&B is right now. So I think that'll be a plan. I think right now my focus is to really, really kill this fusion sound and become the biggest. My aim is to become the biggest brown artist in the world. That is my aim right now. But let's see. I mean, it's a tough challenge, but I think that would be amazing if that can be achieved. Following that, I'd love to crack the US mainstream if I can. That'll be taken. I mean, Jay Sean's done it to an extent, but I'd love to be, I guess, a household name in the US too.
And so any dates on when you're planning to move over? Yeah.
No, I think right now it's more India, so I'll probably move to Mumbai for a few months, and then probably maybe a year after next I might think about moving here for sure. Yeah.
So I mean, from outside looking in, your life seems pretty awesome. You're traveling all over the place, and you're getting to do art, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Is this something you saw yourself doing when you were a kid?
Honestly, no. I was actually more into art, into design. I used to be more into kind of graphic design, and I thought I'd be something in the arts, but not music actually. So I got into music production. Initially, I thought then my aim was to be a producer. I wanted to be like the guy behind the scenes who's making beats, like a Timbaland or Pharrell. But when I got into singing, I realized that it's just an amazing way to see the world. Travel the world. I mean, I'm still not in love with performing. I prefer to be in the studio. I love to make beats and write songs, and that is what I prefer. But it's just an amazing experience to travel and perform. And while I'm young enough to do it, I think the key is to push the singing. Maybe in about 4 or 5 years, I'll switch over to the production and make that my main thing. Because I think that is the longer term career for sure.
I saw you tweeted out a couple weeks ago about going on the plane, and you said I can't sing on the plane. People will look at me funny.
Yeah.
Have you been caught singing on the plane before?
Yeah, I've been caught singing everywhere. Like on the subway, I'm always trying to sing into my phone, like it's a melody, because I forget melodies really fast. So in the shower, like I'll sing a melody again and again and again. I come out of the shower and I've forgotten it. So it's like, yeah, it's embarrassing, but I think it's hard to, sometimes to, like, you work on a song for a few weeks at a time and you can't get the right melody, and suddenly it just comes to you and you're in the most annoying random place and you've got to just find a way to get it down. So yeah, I've been caught singing a few times by people and had a few complaints. Not really, more the interview, but yeah. But for me, I think creating art is the most important thing. I think performing is great. There's so many amazing singers, though. I think it's harder to actually to produce music and to create something that's your own. So that is why my original album is my main passion project. 'Cause obviously it's fun to do remixes and covers and stuff, and it is to an extent creative, because obviously you're giving a new spin to something that's been established already. But and it's a good challenge to try and make it something fresh and new. But I think my main passion is the R&B stuff, and that will be, hopefully, I think it's personally much better than what I've been releasing so far. I think it's a lot more out there. It's more fresh sounding. It sounds a bit more like what's on radio right now. So that, to me, I put pressure on myself to release it this year. I keep saying every year I'm going to release the album this year, I'm going to release it this year, but it never happens. So this year is the year, hopefully. If I don't release it, then come and shoot me, come and kill me, because it's time.
Being an artist and being an entertainer, someone who is Asian, I mean, you're pretty unique in that sense, especially being a second generation. Do you see yourself as almost a role model for kids out there who don't really want to pursue math, science, or things that are kind of stereotyped?
I think, yeah. I mean, it's be kind of big-headed to think I'm a role model, but I think all of us who embrace the arts and do something, whether you're a dancer or a model or a singer, whatever it is that's non-conventional. I think it's a step in the right direction for kind of breaking that stereotype. I think our generation is going to be the one that kind of I think we're second or third generation in the US and UK are embracing the arts, and I think when our kids decide to be whatever, models or actors or whatever, we'll be fine with it probably, because we've been around this culture. But I think that our parents are still doctor, lawyer, banker, engineer. That is still their mindset. But I think it's changing. It just takes, you're right. I think it's good that that we have people like this. I mean, people in the US like Mindy Kaling and Aziz Ansari and Russell Peters and all these people like that. They're making big breaks. I think, especially in the US. UK, we haven't come as far. I think you guys are much further along the line in terms of making brown people in the arts an acceptable thing. Because in the UK, you see a guy on the TV who's brown, and he's going to be playing like or like an Indian character, not like a Western character. Whereas you look at the Indians on TV here, they're just people. They're just playing whatever role they're playing. They're a doctor, they're a lawyer, but they don't have that accent or that stereotype. So I think you guys are, because the nature of America, it's like that. It's you have a black president. It's much more open that way. But I think we're catching up too. It's not so much racism. It's more just acceptance and understanding that we can be cool, and we can be role models, and we can be like, I guess, what do you call it, like, Western stars too.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the goals of Monsoon, is that we want to show that just because you're brown doesn't mean that you are the stereotyped media representation. We have nuance in our life too, and we can be different characters as well. I'm curious, was your parents' reaction when you decided that you wanted to pursue the music professionally?
So they made me get a degree first. I went to university, which I'm glad I did that, to be honest with you. And then I gave it 1 year, so I was like, I'm going to try and make it as a producer. So I did a year where I kind of was part-time studying and part-time kind of making music for other people. So I built a small studio at home, and I made like no money that year. So my parents were like, you know what, you're not making any money, so you should probably get a job, like a proper job. So then I started working in marketing and advertising, initially for a label. So I learned a bit more about the industry that way, and I worked at Universal Music for, I think, 6 months. And then I worked in marketing for another year or so. And in that time, I guess the pressure came off me, because when I was trying to make music and make money from music, it was almost as if I was trying to make a hit song. Like, today I got to make a hit song. When I was working full time, I just come home in the evenings and I just make a beat, or I just write a song. It was just like a casual kind of escape from my work, and that made me write a lot better music. And I think that was when I really kind of found that sound, that fusion sound, and that is when I did all these fusion songs. And I think about a year into working full time, I started traveling. So I was just traveling every weekend. I was trying to balance my job and my traveling. And my parents were like, if you're finally making some money, you're finally, obviously, there's obviously a career in this. And I left my job. And at work, they were just like, "Why are you here?" Just like, "You should just leave. Like, you've got like X million YouTube views, and you're traveling to Malaysia every weekend or whatever." So my boss was like, "You got to leave." Like, he almost sacked me. So, but yeah, I think it's good that I had to kind of hustle and grind it, and and have an experience of struggling and not really making any money from music initially, and that has made me realize that it can go in a second. You don't know what's going to happen. I think I have a fallback option now that I've got a degree and I've worked in the real world too. So my advice to somebody wants to do music full time is, if you can, get some sort of education and fallback options so that you have that option. So the pressure's off you. If you're just going to go into it from the age of 16, 17, then you fail. You're left with nothing. Not nothing, but it's difficult. Whereas if you have that, if you've been around, it's good to be in the world of work and to experience different people and to meet people who work in finance and in advertising and whatever, in media, and just see what it's like, and then work out if it's for you or not.
What did you major in, and where did you go to school?
I went to Cambridge.
Okay.
I studied. Have a guess. You can have a guess.
Think
buildings.
Oh, architecture.
Architecture, yeah.
Very cool.
So it's a 7-year course. I just did the BA. So I'm qualified as an architect, but I would have to do 4 more years to kind of get to a higher level. But I can work as an architect.
Okay. And you mentioned before that in the Desi scene in colleges here, we have competitions like Aaj Ka Dhamaka, where we bring 9 teams from all across the East Coast to compete for cash prizes. Does that kind of stuff happen in the UK?
Yeah, it does actually. Less. I think it's not so much for money, but we have these kind of shows, like I guess we call them variety shows. I don't know. I mean, they're not so much contests. Do we have contests? I think we have 1 or 2. I was never part of them, but we have a thing called Bangla Showdown, which is like a big teams from all over the UK come and compete. But I think you guys have a bigger culture. It's massive here, right? Like, you guys take it really seriously. I think it's amazing. It's surprising to me because I feel like there's so much talent. I travel all over America. I see these amazing singers and dancers, and I feel like there's so few that have kind of pursued it and gone on to be full-time singers and full-time whatever. I mean, so that's obviously, I think, the parents, I think, coming into it. I think that unfortunately that they're probably like, they're not allowed to, or even given that chance to express themselves and try it. So it's a shame. But I think it's changing. I've seen more and more coming back here. There's artists that are coming out of the US, and the scene is growing for sure.
Take me to the night, whenever you were looking at the computer and you saw that Why This Colaverdi had broken, I don't know, 100,000 views, or whatever landmark it was for you, what was that feeling you had?
It was a weird one because I shot that video in my pajamas, as you probably know, so I was literally not expecting much to come of it. I shot it in 1 day, the song was done in 1 day, and I put it out and I went out for dinner with my family. And I remember I just put it on YouTube, and I didn't even check I wasn't thinking much would happen. And at that time, I hadn't turned off my alerts on my YouTube, so every comment I would get like a little buzz. So the first few hours was pretty quiet, and then suddenly it was like just buzzing off, like off the scale. So I was like, well, something's happening here. So I checked the views, and it was frozen. You know how it freezes on YouTube? What is it? I think 301 views. But the likes were jumping like by 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. So I think for about 2 days it was frozen, but the likes had hit like 10,000 or something, and I was like, what's happening? And suddenly it just jumped to like 1 million views in like 3 days. It was like 2 million in 2 weeks and 3 million in 3 weeks. It just kept growing and growing. So that was shocking. And we saw straight away that I think just bookings was just flooding in from all over the world, from Europe and Asia and Africa, Australasia, and we didn't have the team in place. I wasn't really ready for it, so we actually lost out on a lot of shows back then. I think if we had a team in a structure in place, we'd have toured from that point on. But I was still working as well, so it was difficult. But yeah, it was a crazy experience. I remember thinking that that was the start of something new. I could feel that was a big turning point for me in my career for sure. I think it's my only break, I would say. That and getting signed to T-Series.
And so, what would be your advice for people who want to take their performance onto YouTube? What's a good way for them to get views, to get some attention online?
I would say the key is to be consistent. So initially just this is not what I've done at all, but I think this is what I would have done if I had been back then. I think shoot like 10 covers and put out 1 a week. Like, just shoot them one day and just put out 1 a week for like 2 months, 3 months, and just grow. Start to grow a following. Try and find a sound that's a bit unique and different, or to try a formula. Try and just mix it up. When you're early, when you start out, try covering an EDM song in like an acoustic version, or try covering like an Indian song in English, or try something just a bit different. And the key is obviously just to really get involved with Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Use everything you can. Vine. just build some hype. Just create something around you. I think friends are the key too. I think for me, my initial network of friends helped me spread my music really far, because whenever I post a video, they would share it on their Facebook and their Twitter, whatever, and that is exponential, because when your friends share it, their friends see it, and their friends see it. So I think that is the key to utilize your friendship group for sure. I think it's good to have friends and family. What else can I advise? I think also the one important thing is if you're going to go for this whole YouTube route, you can be branded as a YouTuber very, very quickly. So I think it's important to also think about PR. So when you build a bit of a following online, you should probably think about radio and TV. And I think when you kind of appear on TV and radio, I think it gives you that additional element of, oh wow, he's made it that far. Like we're seeing him on TV rather than just on YouTube. I think that is the key. If you leave it too long, you'll be branded as a YouTuber forever. You'll be like, oh, he's that YouTube star. He's a YouTube artist, whereas you want to be a star, a big artist. So it's worth investing a little bit, once you've got a following into a conventional PR campaign, maybe getting, I'm not sure how it works in the US, but we have like companies that will get you on radio, TV, print, features, do interviews. And I think it's also important to build like to kind of convey your personality and show what you're like as a person. If you're likable, it helps. If you're a bit of a douchebag, people aren't going to like you probably. So that's probably, best to hide that from. But I think the key is that people relate to you. If people can see themselves in you and can relate to your music and you as a person, that massively helps for sure.
You mentioned, you made a recommendation of experimenting
Yeah.
with like EDM and other kinds of music, and you talked about your personal goth phase.
Yeah.
Who's your inspiration for music, or who has been? So name some notable names for you throughout your life.
So in terms of production, Ryan Leslie, if you heard of him, he's a guy from Harvard. He went to Harvard when he was 17. He's a singer, songwriter, producer, entrepreneur. He lectures in kind of music business. He's a very smart guy. So I've looked up to him, and he used to make these vlogs where he would kind of construct a beat in the studio. So he'd lay the drum pattern, then he'd play the keys, whatever, the strings, and almost like production tutorials, like kind of vlogs. So he was a massive influence for me. I went to Cambridge, so I'm from quite a academic family, and my whole family is quite academic. They're not really in music. So just to see someone like that who managed to go to Harvard, and the best college in the world pretty much, and he then chosen to leave law school or business school and go into music was a massive inspiration for me too. I think he's one. A.R. Rahman is a massive inspiration to me. Craig David from the UK. People like Usher, Chris Brown, Michael Jackson, huge. In India, in terms of the sound I'm trying to create, people like Salim Sulaiman, have you heard of them?
Yes.
Salim Sulaiman, Vishal Shekhar. They're kind of trying to inject a bit of house, EDM, and R&B and hip hop into Bollywood, which is what my aim was too. So they're doing that now. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. For me, it's been mostly US R&B stars have been my role models for sure.
And what are the names of the movies that you're working on, the Bollywood movies?
I just did a song for Creature 3D, which is a film starring Bipasha Basu. It's a bit of a steamy movie, so check that one out. And we're working, I can't really talk about it yet, but there's another T-series film, which is a big movie which we're working on. My aim is to actually break into music direction, for us it's called production, like making beats. So for them, that is where the real kind of kudos, that's where the real respect comes from, is making the music. Because I think being a playback singer is kind of like, it's almost like you're just a layer of music. You're not a star per se, because Shah Rukh Khan's gonna mime your song in the film, so you aren't really seen. So my aim is to be like the artist that's seen on the camera. I'm not going to be someone whose voice is used and someone else is there. Amir Khan is there singing my song. I mean, the aim is for me to be in the video, along the lines of Honey Singh. You know Honey Singh? Yeah. Kind of that sort of formula where I'm actually able to be in the video, making the music.
You see a lot more people doing that nowadays too.
Mm-hmm. I think it's because I guess non-film music is becoming acceptable in India now. So they're looking at Bhangra and Punjabi music and South Indian music and UK music, and they're looking at it all as a potential sound for India now as well.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Again, and seeing you perform tonight at
Wicked.
AKD.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.